Hello, chemistry students. In this video, we're going to continue our discussion from the empirical formulas to determining molecular formula. If you have not watched that video, please watch the empirical formula video first because it really explains how we're going to get the molecular formula. So again, there is a difference between empirical, the simplest formula, and the molecular formula. For example, hydrogen peroxide, H2O2, the compound looks like that. That is not the simplest ratio. This would be considered my molecular formula. My empirical formula would be the simplest ratio, which is HO. Now there's no molecule HO, so this is just representing the simplest ratio. So the molecular formula is actually how it's found in nature. The empirical formula is the simplest ratio. Sometimes the molecular formula and the empirical formula are the same thing. For example, you can't have a simpler ratio than H2O. That is the simplest ratio, so that is the empirical formula and the molecular formula. But in some cases, like hydrogen peroxide, there are simpler formulas. So if you have an empirical formula, it's very easy to figure out the molecular formula because you just have to figure out by what number will you times that simplest ratio to get the molecular formula, the true formula for the compound. So that's what this video goes over. So to find a molecular formula, you need to know the molar mass of the molecular formula. That's going to help you determine how many times you're going to multiply the empirical formula to get that molecular formula. So the molar mass is always some multiple of whatever the empirical formula's molar mass is. And to find that multiple, it's a simple division of the molar mass by the empirical formula's molar mass. So here is an example. Naphthalene is a compound containing carbon and hydrogen that is used in mothballs. Its simplest formula is C4 or C5H4, and its molar mass is 128.16 grams per mole. What is the molecular formula? So they're saying that this is my empirical formula. What is my molecular formula? So typically you got to multiply the empirical formula by some number. I'll call that number n to get the molecular formula. So what's an easy way to do this? Well, we take the molar mass of the compound and we divide it by the empirical formula's molar mass. So the nice thing is they've given us the empirical formula. It's C5H4. So, you know, it's just 5 times 12, 4 times 1, right? Because there's 5 carbons, 4. And actually, you know, I could put 12.01, but it's roughly going to give me 60 from the carbon, 4 from the hydrogen, which comes out to 64.09 grams per mole. So I rounded just to make it easier. But where did I get the 64? They gave me the empirical formula. Now that's not the molar mass of the compound. The molar mass was 128.16. But when I divide 64 into it, it goes in 2 times. So all I have to do is what? I just multiply the empirical formula, which is the C5H4, by this number n, which is 2. So naphthalene's formula is C10H8. So that was a really easy example of determining molecular formula when I'm given the molar mass and the empirical formula. But I'm not always given the empirical formula. Sometimes I'm going to have to calculate that. So here's an example where I actually have to calculate the empirical formula, and then I can get its molar mass and divide it into the molar mass of the actual molecular formula. So this is the molar mass of the molecular formula, and I need to divide the molar mass of the empirical formula. There's shortcuts and there's easier ways to do this than what I'm going to show you, but the way I'm going to show you is pretty much the only way you should do it for empirical formula. And if you do it for this, you're going to get it right anyways. So it's a way to show all your work, never make a mistake, okay? So we're going to, again, list our elements, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen. And like I said before, if they don't give you grams, right, because I need to go from grams, so if I made a little table here, right, this would be my elements. I need my grams, then I need my moles, and then I'm going to have a mole ratio. And that'll give me my empirical formula. So if they don't give me grams, if they give me percents, just assume you had 100 grams of it. So then I have 39.97 grams of carbon, 13.41 grams of hydrogen, and 46.62 grams of nitrogen. Now I need to convert all of those to moles. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, there's like 12.01 grams per 1 mole of carbon, molar mass. We'll just say 1 gram per 1 mole of hydrogen, periodic table, and 14 grams per 1 mole of, and I'm rounding this to go fast, nitrogen. And I get my moles, and they come out to be, 3.33 moles of carbon, 13.41 moles of hydrogen, and 3.33 moles of nitrogen. So to get the mole ratio, I'm just going to divide all of the moles by the smallest mole number, which is the 3.33. So I'm going to divide this by 3.33, 3.33, 3.33. And it's obvious these two are going to be 1, and this one is going to be my 4. So my empirical formula, my simplest formula, is going to be CH4N. But I want to figure out, what am I going to multiply this empirical formula by to get the molecular formula? So I need to figure out the mass of this empirical formula. So how do I do that? Well, we said it was C4, or I'm sorry, no we didn't. We said it was CH4N. So carbon is 12, 4 times 1 plus 14. So what does that give me? Right? So that gives me 30 grams roughly per mole of this empirical formula. So now I just need to figure out N. And N is take the molar mass of the compound, which was 60 grams per mole, and divide it by the empirical formula's molar mass, which was 30 grams per mole. So N is 2. So I'm going to multiply this number by 2. So I'm going to end up getting C2H8N2. And that is my molecular formula. And we could see that it makes sense that this is the simplest formula because we would divide that by 2 to get it. So that is how we calculate molecular formula. We first determine the empirical formula. How do we do that? If they give us percents, convert to grams. If they already give you grams, great. But convert your percent or your grams to moles, get your mole ratio. You get your simplest ratio, which is your empirical formula. Determine how much that would weigh and divide it by the molar mass of the molecular formula to figure out how much I multiply it by. So thanks for watching. I hope you appreciate this. If you have any questions, let me know.